And we should be live in just a second.
Well, good afternoon and welcome to the October 27th, 2021 meeting of the ERCA Executive Committee. We do have regrets this afternoon from Vice Chair Kieran McKenzie, Windsor Councillor. I will now take roll call of the board members who are in attendance. Councillor Len Janice from Lakeshore. Present.
Present.
Deputy Mayor Larry Verbeek from Leamington.
Present.
And Deputy Mayor Joe Bacchetti from Tecumseh.
Present.
And thank you. I'd like to begin by acknowledging that this land is the traditional territory of the Three Fires Confederacy of First Nations, comprised of the Ojibwe, the Ottawa, and the Petawatomi peoples. We value the significant historical and contemporary contributions of local and regional First Nations and all of the original peoples of Turtle Island, North America, who've been living and working on the land from time immemorial. Are there any declarations of pecuniary interest? Seeing none, I need a mover to approve the agenda for today's meeting. Moved by Larry Verbeek, seconded by Len Janice. Anybody opposed? That is carried. We now have to convene as the hearing board. So we need a mover that the board of directors sit as the hearing board in respect of applications under section 28 of the Authorities Act. Moved by Deputy Mayor Joe Bacchetti, seconded by Len Janice. Anyone opposed? That is carried. We're now going to conduct hearings under section 28 of the Conservation Authorities Act in respect of 4 applications. Paul Peter Gertsakis is requesting relief from access ingress policy requirements to construct an addition and to undertake major renovations to the existing dwelling at 238 Grace Road in Tecumseh. Patrick Strong is requesting relief from access ingress policy requirements to construct an addition at 8820 Riverside Drive in the city of Windsor. Tosin Bello is requesting relief from access ingress policy requirements to construct a dwelling unit at 8774 Riverside Drive in the city of Windsor. We as the hearing board are unaware of the matters being brought forward, and we're only now receiving and reviewing the information provided by staff this afternoon. The authority has adopted regulations under section 28 of the Conservation Authorities Act, which requires the permission of the authority for development within an area regulated by the authority in order to ensure no adverse effect on the control of flooding, erosion, dynamic beaches, or pollution or conservation of land, or to permit alteration to a shoreline or watercourse or interference with a wetland. The staff has reviewed this proposed work, and a copy of the staff report has been given to the applicants. The Conservation Authorities Act, section 2812, provides that permission required under regulation made under clause 1B or H shall not be refused or granted subject to the conditions unless the person requesting permission has been given the opportunity to require a hearing before the authority, or if the authority so directs, before the authority's executive committee. In holdings these hearings, the authority board is to determine whether or not a permit is to be issued. In doing so, we can only consider the application in the form that it is before us, the staff report, such evidence as may be given, and the submissions to be made on behalf of each applicant. The proceedings will be conducted according to the Statutory Powers Procedure Act under Section 5 of the Canada Evidence Act. A witness may refuse to answer any questions on the ground that the answer may tend to criminate the person or may tend to establish his or her liability to a civil proceeding at the instance of the Crown or of any person. The procedure in general shall be informal. However, this is a quasi-judicial process and provides for evidence to be given in response to members' question. Therefore, staff and applicants will be asked to swear on an oath or provide an affirmation to speak the truth. In accordance with section 28 of the Act, an applicant who has been refused permission or who objects to conditions imposed on permission may, within 30 days of receiving the reasons, appeal in writing to the minister who may refuse the permission or grant permission with or without conditions. Through order in council, the responsibility for the hearing of the appeal has been transferred to the Mining and the Lands Tribunal. If the applicant has any questions to ask of the hearing board or of the authority representative, they must be directed by the chair of the board. Staff will first introduce the applicant, his or her owner, and others wishing to speak, and then present the staff position. The applicant and or their agent may then speak and make comments on the staff position if they so desire. I would also remind everyone that the hearing board is open to the public and therefore will allow others to speak if necessary. The applicant in rebuttal. We as the hearing board will question if necessary both the staff and the applicant or agent. Before I ask Dan Jenner, Regulations Coordinator, to introduce the applications, I would ask that he swear an oath or provide an affirmation of truth.
Affirmation, please.
Okay. Mr. Jenner, do you solemnly affirm that the evidence which you are about to give in this proceeding will be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, so help you?
I do.
Okay. I do understand. I do understand, Dan, sorry, that the applicants are not present today. And however, you will be speaking to the applications.
That is correct, Madam Chair.
Okay. Okay, the first application.
The first application before the committee tonight is for Peter Paul Curtis on 238 Grace Road in the town of Tecumseh. And while our applicants are not joining us tonight, I do want to assure the committee that they are fully aware of the issues that are being brought before the committee tonight, as well as the need for the hearings and the hearing process. We explained to them in detail the implications of the Gilmore decision, and they only choose not to attend the hearing because we've had these conversations and assure them that staff are supporting these applications. In the event that staff wasn't supporting an application, we would make sure that the applicant was fully aware of whatever that staff position may be at the time. So again, these are applications in areas that are fully developed. The applicants are fully aware that we're going through this process and have given us permission and put their confidence in us to speak on their behalf if required. So again, the first application is on Grace Road within the town of Tecumseh. It is a fully developed area. And as this committee is aware, the town of Tecumseh has undertaken significant works along Riverside Drive to improve the flood resiliency of this area. They've also invested in updating their emergency plans as well as equipment to support those emergency plans. So the applicant is proposing to construct an addition to an existing dwelling, and they will also be undertaking some major renovations, basically a full gut of the house and some exterior wall changes, as well as some basement windows. So they are seeking relief from the ingress and egress policy requirements. We're satisfying the floodproofing elevation, the minimum required floodproofing elevation of 176.7 meters. And minimum road elevation here is 175.9 meters above sea level. For obvious reasons, setbacks from the hazards are not applicable for this particular site. Next slide, please. So you can see there on the map, there is a small portion that is approximately 5 inches below the typical provincial road elevations or minimum road elevations. But the town of Tecumseh is fully aware of this. The remainder of the access pathways out of this area are either between provincial and ERCA requirements or above ERCA requirements, as you can see from the green and yellow lines there. Again, this area is fully developed. The roads are fully delineated. Emergency first responders are fully aware of the flood-prone nature of these areas, have updated their plans, purchased equipment, and we are satisfying all other regulatory requirements. Again, the applicant is fully aware of these potential hazards as well. So with that, we are recommending that the committee waive the ingress and egress policy requirements and approve the application for Peter Paul Gertis at 238 Grace Road in the town of Tecumseh.
Okay, thank you, Dan. Dan, any questions from the board members? No, then I need a mover to support the application from Paul Peter Gertsakis to request release and approve the application. Moved by Deputy Mayor Bichetti, seconded by Len Janice. Anybody opposed? That is carried. The next application is from Patrick Strong. You may go ahead, Dan, with that one.
Thank you, Madam Chair. The second application that is before the committee tonight will pop up on the screen momentarily here, is located on Riverside Drive within the city of Windsor. The applicant, Patrick Strong, is proposing to construct a sunroom on the lakeside of the existing dwelling unit. So because the sunroom and I want to clarify, this is a fairly extensive sunroom. It is essentially an addition. It can be used for 4 seasons, and it is going closer to the hazard. So anytime an applicant is moving the structure closer to the hazard, we as staff have to ensure that they're satisfying all of the current development requirements. In this case, that is the floodproofing elevation, which they are satisfying. We are satisfying the setback requirements from the hazard, ensuring that the development, the new development, is protected to that 100-year standard. And they've done that through an shoreline engineering assessment completed by Challenge Consulting Engineers. The third requirement that we have to satisfy is, of course, component. The minimum road elevations here for ERCA is 175.8 meters above sea level, with the provincial minimum road elevations being slightly below that. Now, Riverside Drive has recently undergone a reconstruction, so there's been some changes along the roadway here to improve the flood conditions along that roadway, not only in terms of the south and inland areas of the city of Windsor, but also to allow the water to essentially move along the road a little bit better. So areas where it's pooling and maybe standing water is now going to flow slightly along the road so that it can actually get out of that area faster. This is really important because emergency first responders can take this into consideration about how to access an area, whether they're coming in from the south along many of the other roads there, or if they're going to follow Riverside Drive all the way along. So there's only 2 portions of the roadway that are below the provincial minimum typical road elevations, and it is below by approximately 4 inches. And we are below ERCA typical minimum road elevations by approximately 1 foot. Again, this area is fully developed. The emergency first responders are fully aware of this area. And as a result of some of these road changes, we're bringing these applications to the committee for consideration with full support from staff as we continue to work with the city on addressing these complex issues that face our region due to our very flat nature. So we are satisfying, again, setback requirements, floodproofing, and with the committee's approval tonight, we will be satisfying those safe access policy requirements. So staff is recommending approval of this application from Patrick Strong, requesting relief from the access, ingress, and egress policy requirements to construct an addition at 8820 Riverside Drive within the city of Windsor.
Thank you, Mr. Jenner. Any questions or comments from the board members? Okay, so then the application for Patrick Strong be approved. Moved by Deputy Mayor Verbeek, seconded by Councillor Janice. Anybody opposed? No, that is carried. And the next application, Tosin Bello, Mr. Jenner.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Again, we are located within the city of Windsor along Riverside Drive. And if you look closely at the map, you'll notice we are about 3 houses to the west of the previous application that was before us. Tosin Bello is looking to construct a second dwelling unit within the city of Windsor. And anytime we are increasing the number of dwelling units within a residential structure, we are looking to satisfy those hazard management requirements, specifically setbacks from the hazard, the floodproofing elevation to ensure it is protected from flooding, and those safe access components. So there is an existing house on this site. It was built around 2017. It did meet all of the requirements at the time. We've since had some updated and more accurate road elevations. So we are bringing the second dwelling unit on this site before the committee tonight, seeking relief from those access, ingress, and egress policy requirements. Again, the road elevation here is going to be about 1 foot lower than the typical ERCA minimum requirements and about 4 inches below the typical provincial requirements. So we're looking right around 0.4 to 0.5 of a meter of water over the roadway in the lowest spots of Riverside Drive. Emergency services, again, have updated their plans to reflect these areas and are fully aware of the flood-prone nature of these areas. The city has undertaken significant works to Riverside Drive to get the water away from these areas as fast as possible to increase their ability to respond and to increase the flood protection for the areas south of Riverside Drive. We are satisfying all of the regulatory minimum requirements. And with that, staff members are requesting that the committee give consideration to approving the application and waiving the ingress and egress policy requirements to allow for the construction of the second dwelling unit at 8874 Riverside Drive in the city of Windsor.
Any questions or comments from board members? Then on the application for Tosin Bello, a mover to approve, Deputy Mayor Joe Becchetti, seconded by Councillor Janice. Anybody opposed? That's carried. Thank you, Mr. Jenner. The hearing board.
Chair.
Thank you. The hearing board now has to reconvene as the executive committee, moved by Deputy Mayor Verbeek, seconded by Deputy Mayor Becchetti. Anybody opposed? That is carried. Do you have a tender request for quote for construction of Holiday Beach wetland? Kevin, if you wanted to speak to this, that'd be great.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Approximately a year and a half ago, the Amherstburg Community Foundation provided a donation to the Essex Region Conservation Foundation to construct a wetland and a single-track cycling facility at Holiday Beach. The construction of the wetland is phase one of that project. So here before you are prices associated with the construction of a wetland at Holiday Beach. The project itself is slightly delayed because we needed to receive permissions from the Ministry of Natural Resources before we could proceed. We have all those permissions in place now, especially for the wetland, and we've gone out and solicited quotes from contractors. The lowest quote is approximately $48,000. The highest quote is well over $100,000, quite a variety of pricing received, unfortunately. The actual budget of grants received to actually build a wetland is approximately $40,000. As a result, we're suggesting that we do award this to the lowest bidder or contractor, contingent upon further negotiations to work with that individual to bring their quote and the cost more in line with the budget of about $40,000, which is where we anticipated this project to be. We're quite confident that we'll achieve that, and we will leave this decision up to the executive committee at this point. Thank you.
Thank you, Kevin. Any questions or comments, board members? Deputy Mayor Verbeek.
Thank you. I guess, Kevin, I always thought ERCA owned Holiday Beach. It's a little bit of a surprise. This long-term lease, 2001 to 2031, do we have, what was the lease before that?
This is the second time this is a second lease. I'd have to refer back to Tim a little bit, but I believe the last one was for 30 years before that. So we've had this, we've branded Holiday Beach Conservation Area as a conservation area since the 1980s, I believe.
Okay, I don't want to show Tim's age. Thank you.
Yeah.
Thanks, Larry.
Yeah, no problem.
Tim, did you want to add to that at all?
Kevin's correct. It is the second management agreement that we had. Holiday Beach was a provincial park in the 50s, 60s, and 70s. The province then had Holiday Beach out. There was an independent contractor at one point in time. There was some other arrangement with another provider. And then the Essex Region Conservation Authority took it over in 1987. And then with again, a long-term management agreement with it. Kevin and I have been active in conversations with the district manager of MNRF, and we're going to be reaching out to Infrastructure Ontario to find out in a longer term what the province's wishes are with that property. And we're going to be reporting back in our work that we're doing this year with the transition planning responding to Bill 229, just where we're at with that property, and then seek advice and direction from the board how we proceed with it in the future with Holiday Beach Conservation Area.
Okay, thank you, Tim. Counselor Janice, you had your hand up. Go ahead.
Thank you, Chair. To Kevin. Yeah, the bids are all over the place. I could see that. I don't know if we saw a plan for that. We don't have a plan in front of us tonight. 40,000, I imagine it's not that big of scope of work. So with losing 8,000 or jockeying it around for $8,000, how cheaper is that going to make the job, or less effective, or would you hope then to make phase 2 bigger, or how would you compensate for what you might have to lose?
Yeah. So great question. Thank you, Councillor. The actual wetland itself is approximately 0.8 acres in size. And what we're going to be doing is there's a shallow area that's approximately 3 feet. And then there's a deeper pool in the middle that's approximately 6 to 8 feet big. What we're going to be doing is making the deeper area much smaller, because ultimately it means that the contractor has to manipulate and move less material around. This project is all about equipment time and the amount of time to move earth. So by reducing the size of that deeper pocket, we'll be eliminating a lot of time associated for the contractor to be moving earth. The other thing we can do associated with this particular project is split the fill pile in half. So all the earth that's excavated is current in the original drawings was proposed to be placed on one side of the pond. And now what we're suggesting is we can split that and put it on both sides of the pond. So by doing that, again, we reduce the amount of time and effort for a contractor to physically move material. So between those two things, we think we'll be able to get down to approximately $40,000 quite easily.
Thank you.
Okay, thank you,
I'll
Kevin.
move the recommendation if you're looking for a mover.
Okay, I am. I'm looking for mover, and then supported by Deputy Mayor Verbeek. Anybody opposed? Then that is carried.
Thank you.
Thank you. We don't have any reports of approval or committee of the whole. Is there any new business that members wish to address? Nothing at this time. Next meeting of the ERCA Board of Directors will be held on Thursday, November 18th, 2021, 6 p.m. via Zoom web conferencing. The board will be convening in committee of the whole prior to this meeting at 5 p.m. Well, this concludes our meeting of the ERCA Executive Committee today. Thank you for joining us, and I would ask for a motion to adjourn. Deputy Joe Bacchetti and Councillor Janice. All in favor? That is carried.